You're listening to the Savoir Faire audio experience.
Are you ready?
The Savoir Faire experience is your guide to everything that has to do with lifestyle. From dating, rides, style, and entertainment. All brought to you by the editor of Savoir Faire magazine, Robert White. Anything goes on this audio experience. So, let's go.
It's still the best.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Savoir Faire audio experience. Thank you guys for listening, following, sharing, subscribing, all that fun stuff. We see you and we definitely appreciate you, so please keep up the good work over there. I want to thank you guys for just kind of being with us for a long time here, 4 or 5 months now. We've been doing podcasts and knocking them out pretty fast because we're interviewing great people from all over the country in all walks of life. And really today's a very cool interview. I'm excited to talk to Anna Quinn. Hello, Anna.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thanks for finding some time. So professionally, you're Anna Laura Quinn. So you're a jazz singer who's just out there killing it with your style and your voice, and I love to see all of that. Super glad that we were able to connect, and I want to introduce you to my audience and let them know a lot more about you. So we're going to go through some questions here, but I always like to start with musical artists in a very unique way, and that is just take me down memory lane for a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about who you were, where you grew up, and all the beginning stages of when music became a part of your world.
Well, I grew up in San Francisco, and my parents are not musicians themselves, but they are music lovers, just deeply love music, and we grew up listening to a lot of classical music in the house, but they introduced me to the Beatles catalog very early, and so I knew all the words to all those songs and sang along from a very young age. But also Bonnie Raitt and Joni Mitchell, and just a big variety of music that my mom especially was really planted in my ear. And also notably, Ella Fitzgerald was a big one because that was she grew up listening to that in her parents' house, so she passed that to me. And so, from a young age, I guess in my teen years, I was listening to Ella Fitzgerald a lot, and just sort of soaking in jazz standards. Didn't really ever think about wanting to be a vocalist, though. When I was a teenager or a kid, I really never thought about it, honestly. I did basketball. I did I didn't do art. I didn't do any of the things that I really are so important in my life now. I drove around in my car and sang along to the radio a lot, but that's kind of all I can say that that was kind of how singing was integrated into my life at that time. And I went to a French school growing up, a bilingual French school for 14 years. So I learned a lot I'm fluent in French currently, and so I didn't know then, but that would be kind of like a cool ingredient in what I have to offer now as a vocalist, is this kind of multilingual thing. And I ended up going to New York for college at NYU, and I was a visual arts student, and so I really just didn't even start thinking about singing until like the very end of my time at NYU, when I just sort of I was just sort of like started singing one day and becoming curious about my voice. I can't even really say exactly what like brought it into focus, but then it started to become clear over the years in my mid to late 20s that I was interested in it. I was curious, but I was a little bit just unsure of like where that could lead, but confident that was something that I wanted to express, or my voice was something that I wanted to use to express myself creatively. So it wasn't until I moved to New Orleans in 2010. Actually, I didn't even really start doing it when I moved to New Orleans, which is kind of what I imagined for myself. Moving there in 2010, I was like, I'll be a musician, but it's kind of intimidating, if you can imagine, to move to New Orleans and think you might
for sure
want to be a musician, because there's just like, I mean, you just throw something and you hit an amazing musician who has like a lineage of, you know, many generations of musicians before them, and it's kind of wild. But eventually it turned out to be the perfect place for me to find myself as a musician and a vocalist and a band leader and arranger and everything. So it just took a little time for me.
No, I completely understand. And I encourage a lot of people that are like kind of in the midst of like, oh, I really want to be in singing or acting or whatever it may be, to kind of look at the places where that is very, very consistent. Like you said, like, I mean, New Orleans is a very intimidating town for an up and coming jazz singer because you can throw a rock and hit someone who's legendary, like in any direction. But being able to be taught by people like that and being able to be in that scene, it takes your game level up so quickly. Like,
for sure.
You know, if you were playing basketball with high schoolers all day long, then you would just be chilling at a high school level and you kind of be the dominant force. But as soon as you're on a court with a bunch of NBA players and you're the weakest, you're either going to increase your game or you're just going to be the weakest. And so
yeah,
I think like being in music cities like Nashville, LA, New York, New Orleans, these other places, even Seattle for grunge maybe, like when you're in that community, your level of like being good has to increase or you just don't, you know what I mean? Like it's either make or break it sometimes, which is very cool. So I think that's a really cool part of your story that you really were able to go into a town like that that's so enriched in music, pick a genre that really does fit you very well, and then just be able to kind of elevate yourself in that regard. And that's super cool. So I wanted to ask about that too, because you mentioned a lot of different artists that you listened to while you were growing up that your parents kind of influenced you to listen to as well. But none of the artists except for like Fitzgerald really kind of check off the jazz box. So when did you realize your voice was kind of like more soulful and jazzy? Why did this genre kind of like interest you so much?
I would say that although I grew up listening to Ella and I learned a lot of, I just sort of absorbed a lot of standard, you know, American songbook from her, and of course always love her and carry her in my heart. The vocalist who kind of like piqued my ears and made me think that I want to do that, that I wanted to sing in more of a jazz vein is Sarah Vaughan. And I was gifted a bunch of jazz records when I think I was maybe in my late 20s, and the Sarah Vaughan and Clifford Brown album was, which is a wonderful album, kind of just really opened my ears to jazz vocals, and that just really it shifted my attention, I would say. And eventually I just got really into I was seeking a way forward with with my voice, you know, and I got I got a tip from my friend who lived in New Orleans about who was also singing jazz at the time, about the jazz studies program at University of New Orleans. And so I just thought that sounded like it was exactly what I needed at exactly the right time, because I really needed like something to help me like harness my ambition a little bit and like give me a little bit of structure. And so when I went to UNO, I didn't think that eventually I'd get a master's in jazz studies there, but which I did end up getting. But I just went sort of to find the community and to find the professors, and so I spent like 4 years really, because I took my time getting the degree, and it was COVID, and there was COVID in there, and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. And so when I was in this community, I went really deep, you know, and I was actually the only vocalist in the program at the time. So I was just kind of they pushed me to the front. They were like, okay, they put me in all these great ensembles. And I just really got my chops up on like being, you know, the band leader with the band of instrumentalists and picking the material. And people put a lot of other great artists in my ear, and Carmen McRae and Nancy Wilson and just all kind of great vocalists. But also doing a lot of instrumental transcriptions and things, and sort of just being in, kind of like you said, like being in the pool with like all these great instrumentalists who then helped me sort of bring the level of my chops up, and made me feel like, you know, I needed to rise to the occasion to sort of match the skill and the output of these people. Mm-hmm. And so I just got a lot of opportunities to perform, and I just, for me, the joy of swinging out is just like something I'll always do, even when I really do. Something that I think that maybe you've noticed about my work is that I weave together a lot of different sources and inspiration and like different influences, like you said, like. But I always come back to swing. I always like to bring that element of like joyful swinging into my music at some point in a show that I'm doing. It's just like, it's a huge part of me.
Yeah, that's good. You have a great, like real big personality. I heard it in your music and some of the stuff that I learned about you before we connected today. So I think that's a really unique thing. I mean, musicians not only are creative and have aspects and influences that kind of help develop who you are, but you have to have this original piece of you. There's always got to be the original piece of you, because, you know, like having 20 Anna Laura Quinns in the market, like, doesn't make sense for us. Just having one unique person that can deliver a song correctly and put stuff out there. I mean, that's what people get attached to. And so it's very cool that you kind of enhance your kind of personal story and the things that you've learned, and kind of bring in your own style and uniqueness to it. I wanted to learn a little bit more about you a little bit more, as far as like being a singer-songwriter in general. What have you learned about yourself from being a singer-songwriter? What kind of things I mean, you kind of started this a little bit later in your college years compared to your, you know, childhood potentially. So what have you learned about your changing and your developing? Like, do you feel more confident in life? Do you feel like other parts of your life have changed because of what you're doing now? Talk me through that a little bit.
Oh yeah, I would say that, this is what I'm doing now is never something, like I said, it's never something that I imagined doing when I was a kid. And I didn't really think about it in college, like I said, until I was like maybe like 20, 21 or 22. And I think that, you know, it's been about a decade, I would say, that I've been really pursuing this very consistently. You know, I almost 10 years ago was when I just decided, you know, I have to put myself into this fully if I really want to see something happen. And so that's when I started at the UNO program. And, you know, we all have the moments of, you know, when I was in art school at NYU, I definitely had to, you know, the imposter syndrome that comes from just, you know, being sort of like an artist that's in the nascent stages of what they're trying to create. And so I think that over the last 10 years that I've been working to sort of build this career, that I'm just going to continue to keep building upon. It's just been really nice to really feel the quality of work and the quality of my, you know, of what I do sort of the quality has just been consistently going up. And I think that it's because I have been gaining a lot of confidence, partly because I get a lot of great encouragement from all around me, which is very important. But also I just feel that I can let myself go a little bit more, or increasingly, you know, and just let myself really disappear into the music and be myself, you know, just be like very authentically myself on the stage, and really be in the moment, in the performance space, and just have confidence that what is going to come out is going to be exactly, you know, what wants to come out. at that moment. And it's like not overthinking it. I'm just, it's like a flow state.
Yeah, no, I dig that.
And,
Do you feel like your live show kind of gets manipulated or changes as you kind of go through a set potentially? I mean, I know a lot of artists that like really have a lineup. They have kind of a general idea of what performances they want to do, what songs they're going to perform, and then based on the room, things start dissolving or changing or moving around. Do you guys tap into that energy a little bit and kind of adjust your sets? Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely I do. I would say, in New Orleans, I'm playing a lot of gigs in bars where, the crowds are shifting. People are coming in and out. I have this great monthly gig at, I'm going to plug my favorite spot called Dos Jefes, Uptown Cigar Bar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the places that gave me my first gig under my own name in 2017. And I've been playing there every month pretty much ever since. And, and so, I honestly go into that gig just, I don't even know what. I know what I'm going to play first. We always play the first same song, and then after that, I just sort of make it up as I go along. And so there are a lot of gigs like that, and so I'm kind of reading the room and sometimes taking requests and things like that. But there's another kind of show that I do, which is more like the concert, where people are buying a ticket, people are coming to sit down and really listen and pay attention. And those are I'm trying to get more gigs like that. I think that's in my future. And those kind of gigs are really great for me because I can put out, I do come in with like a set list. I'm like, these are the songs that we're playing. Sometimes we've even rehearsed them. If I can get the band together, rehearsing can be a little bit tricky in New Orleans sometimes. Everybody's so busy, but usually I got like a nice little rehearsal together. And so we've like really worked this set. But the song choices the songs that I choose, I think just have a lot of space for freedom for everybody to express, there's just like a built-in sort of like openness to the arrangements that makes it so that there's a lot of different, it can kind of like fluctuate in this beautiful way. The music is just sort of, everybody gets to like have their say, and everybody gets to sort of contribute in the moment to the vibe of the song. And
yeah, that's
so
cool.
I think those are two very kind of different things that I do. But, they're all I love playing for the bars, and I love playing, for a nice listening audience. It's like both have their own kind of joy.
No, that makes sense. I've seen like, I've been in jazz clubs in New York City and stuff too, right? So I've seen a group of guys just get together. You can tell that they potentially had rehearsal, but probably not what you're talking about. And then they get in there and started kind of jamming away, but they're all like excellent musicians. So like rehearsal's like minimal for them. And then out of nowhere, someone will just hit like a solo and everyone just stops and looks at them, including the band. And you're just like, that wasn't planned. That's super cool. Like I love stuff like that where someone just goes off on a tangent because they're in the moment and everyone just kind of accepts it. And then you just move on. And, there's a little, you can see it within the band members. They're just like, yep, we're just going to vibe with this person and let them have their cool little moment. I love that. It's very, it's very raw for the listener too, which is cool.
That's the great thing about jazz. And, people who have like sort of have like been in the music and really studied the music of jazz is there's just so much spontaneity built into it, and freedom. I think that's like kind of there's structure, and there's structures that we all know are there that are kind of like keeping, a container for the band so that like, things don't go awry. Mm-hmm. But the built-in spontaneity is just one of the things that makes it so exciting to listen to and to watch, and the fact that the musicians are able to engage with each other, you could put four people who have never played together in a room, and you give them maybe just one chord chart or something, or even two chords, just two chords, and they're going to play this song that's like based on 2 chords, and they're going to make some magic happen, you know, and it's like about dynamics, and it's about communicating between these wordless communications between musicians and things. And it just it kind of looks like magic from the outside, honestly.
No, that's super cool. No, I love stuff like that. Well, I want to learn a little bit more about the group that you're playing with and some of the people that are involved in your life more personally with the band and whatever. So you're in a band called the Unmentionables. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. That's actually a whole,
that's the whole thing right there. You're the lead singer and there's a bunch of you. They're kind of playing around in different places, or?
Yeah. Well, the Unmentionables is like a little bit like my side project, but
okay.
It's a very important project for me that I love. And it's my band that plays what I like to call New Orleans get down music. And so so it's kind of a very special slice of, and it's very different from like what you hear from Anna Laura Quinn. You know, if you're going to see Anna Laura Quinn, you're going to see something very different than if you're going to see the Unmentionables. But they're, you know, I'm a multifaceted, very many-sided creature over here, and the Unmentionables is just like a super fun, so super funky, great party band that I lead in New Orleans, and we play Dr. John, we play Frankie Beverly and Maze, we do our own sort of interpretations of a lot of different kind of party music from across decades and genres, and so that's like I'm glad that you found out about the Unmentionables, and we're now mentioning them here.
Yeah, we need to talk about the Unmentionables because I thought that was really cool. I heard some of that music today too off your website and stuff. So I wanted to kind of pull that out of you a little bit, just learn a little bit more about that experience because that's super cool. Sure. Well, the next level of this is like you and your good buddy Ed, apparently, right? So Ed Barrett, is he also in the Unmentionables?
Ed is pretty much part of everything I do.
He's part of everything. Okay, cool. So
and he's pretty much the original Unmentionable.
Okay, I love that. Props to Ed too, by the way, because I am a guitar player myself, and so that's the instrument that I attach myself to, and I listen to guitarists so extremely well. Like I really kind of get absorbed by great musicians. So if Ed's listening to us today, I just want to say amazing work, by the way. But you and Ed are just this Quinn and Barrett thing, right? And I love that too. And you guys just have a song coming out called Just, right?
Oh, well, so our album is called Just Quinn and Barrett.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Just Quinn and Barrett. Perfect.
Yeah, Just Quinn and Barrett. We got our little wink, little punny album title there. Because, and it's a little bit of nod to the, I feel like there was like this run of albums in like the 60s, it would be like, Paul Chambers Alone, or I don't know. I just totally took that out of, that's not an album, but there would just be these names that were just very sparse, and it would be, and so I just wanted to sort of like channel this like mid 60s sort of like, just Quinn and Barrett. It's a duo. There's just 2 of us, but it's also this kind of clever pun.
Yeah.
Which in this day and age, sometimes you gotta just Quinn and Barrett because they'll just kind of move on and do our best out here. But yeah, so Just Quinn and Barrett is the name of our album that's coming out on July 11th, and it's a capsule collection, I would say, of tunes that from what I like to call the Quinn and Barrett mixtape, which is just a long list of songs that Ed and I played together, which really, cover a lot of ground genre-wise and mood-wise and influence-wise, because he and I both, one of the things that we bonded over early on was we just really have gone separately, we've each gone deep into like really different styles and genres of music, and like really loving, different kind of things. Like he's like loves Rush, and he loves the guitar player Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, excellent. Yeah, good taste.
That's his original, main influence, and Jimi Hendrix, of course, but also maybe if you're a guitar player, you've heard of Ed Bickert. Ed Bickert,
that sounds familiar.
A Canadian.
Yeah, I think
he's
so.
He's a Canadian guitar player who plays a Telecaster, and which Ed's a Telecaster guy. For the most part, he plays Telecaster on our album, and so he's just like really, gone deep into listening to this Canadian guitar player, Ed Bickert, and so he has his influences, and then I have mine, which are, the vocalists that I mentioned before, and also, and I did say Joni Mitchell, but Joni and Patsy Cline, and just all these various sort of sources of inspiration. And so this album, Just Quinn and Barrett, we put together kind of to sort of bring a lot of these influences into like one sonic space. And so, and with just the two of us, as this duo. And so it's just like I think it's a very exciting mix of songs that we've put together. The opening song of which is, Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears.
Nice.
That's our single that just came out. And it has an accompanying video, and it's a very, in my opinion, it's a very super different from anything you have heard from. I mean, it's very different from the Tears for Fears version. It's very stripped down. It's very emotional and kind of raw, and I'm really proud of that arrangement. And from there, it goes to this arrangement that I created of Walking After Midnight, and we do a Dr. John song. We have a Duke Ellington song that Ed and I have done for years called Just Squeeze Me, and another standard, Just One of Those Things by Cole Porter. And so we're just sort of like covering all these bases, and it's like somehow, because it's him and I, and with the help of our producer Brian Seeger, who's based here in New Orleans, like we weave this thread, that is. It surprisingly just all comes together, even in spite of it being these very different styles and genres. And I would say that it still comes under this like a jazz umbrella, but we're like really pulling from like all these different styles, which I think is what, so many great artists are doing these days, because jazz is about responding to like what's in the air and like what is out in the world, all the sources of information, all the sources of music.
Yeah.
And sort of, and bringing them into your own personal style and creating your personal songbook. We have access to so much, and so it's cool.
Yeah, I love this kind of mix that you're going to do with Ed, because there's a lot of songs that you guys are covering that are like really a big part of my childhood too. And so I'm excited to kind of hear your interpretation of some of these and how that all works. But and I really want to just thank you for your time today, and try to wrap up a little bit. But I want to give a couple little plugs here. So AnnaLauraQuinn.com is your website. People can find you over there, and if you go to the website, you can find tour dates, photos, music, the whole kit and caboodle is over there. And
the new video.
And the new video's over there, which is great, and people can go check that out too. And then obviously you're on a bunch of social platforms as well. What's your Instagram where people can find you? Oh,
it's at ALQ Sings. So okay. ALQ stands for Anna Laura Quinn. So obviously. At ALQ Sings. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for talking about jazz and music with me today. I really appreciate it. I always kind of have a soft spot for musical artists, because I'm in that world too, on the side and a little underground. But I really kind of hope you guys have a great success with this. And just to plug one more thing, you mentioned to me before we got on our call today that you we're going to be in my neighborhood in upstate New York doing some stuff.
That's right.
What places and dates were those? Do you remember?
Yeah. I'm going to be at it's called a venue called 75 Stutson in Rochester on July 25th. And I don't know Rochester. Ed is actually from Rochester, and my ancestors were from Rochester, but I've never been. So I don't know much about it, but I'm very excited to visit that town and
cool.
play there. So 75 Stetson, and that's on July 25th. And then a couple days later, on July 27th, I'm going to be at a place in Syracuse called Pink Rock Culture Co-op, which is a very cool artist-run venue that I discovered that we're going to play, I guess. And I guess there's like a Syracuse art festival on the same day, and so we're going to be kind of like part of that. And then from there, we're going to Glens Falls, New York, to another little kind of artist-run space called Kitsch Vibe, and after that, Burlington, Vermont, to the place called Radio Beam. And I'm still building the tour out from there, but yeah, I'm hoping to get to Boston, New York City, and maybe a couple other places in between. So yeah, stay tuned. Definitely follow the Instagram to get more info about that.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
The website.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much, Anna. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the show. Please take a minute to head over to www.savfair.com and subscribe to our publication.